On this episode, Caroline and I are going to take you Mountain Merriam hunting on public land.
I'm making my breakfast burrito from the tent and I can hear him gobbling.
My name is Erin and I founded Uncharted Outdoorswomen back in 2021 to create safe space for women in the outdoors. I founded Uncharted Outdoorswomen because when I was learning how to hunt as an adult, there wasn't a calendar of events guided by women and other femme-forward guides to learn how to hunt, fly fish, and forage on my local public land just outside my backyard. I had to hire a guide every time, so there was just a set of skills, basic skills that I needed that I designed my business around so women feel confident and they have safe opportunities to learn about the backcountry with their community. Caroline and I met when she applied to work at Uncharted Outdoorswomen to help me create safe spaces for women to learn how to upland hunt. For the past 3 years, women have signed up to learn how to shoot a shotgun and hunt pheasants so they can do it all on their own without us.
Caroline's 3 for 3 for finding toms.
In this video, you're going to learn how to find Merriam turkeys on public land. So we're going to talk about food, water, shelter. What are the hunting strategies we use based off of turkey behavior and time of day? So we're talking decoys, evening roosting, driving back roads, and about the 30 miles that we hiked in 4 days. We're going to give you what our ideal day looks like to have the best time outside. We're going to give you the story of the canyon birds. And I'm going to show you behind the scenes at our backcountry camp where we dry camp and don't have a fire pit. Okay, let's talk about finding turkeys. You can simply start at Colorado Parks and Wildlife's website. You can see all of the state-owned public land. You can make a reservation there 2 weeks in advance. You can see the types of animals you can hunt there. And your hunting and fishing license goes back to conservation of these habitats.
Public land means to me just hundreds of thousands of acres that me and my family can recreate and go hunting and have these really cool experiences.
When we're looking for public land to go hunting, we look for National Forest, we look for Bureau of Land Management, and state land on Onyx. Our suggestion is, if it's in your budget, to buy an Onyx Hunt membership. You'll need to be able to drive some back roads to really get into places where you might not find people. Not that that's required for public land hunting, but it sure is nice. You're going to be looking for down trees, food, shelter like the ponderosa pines. You want to be looking for what part of the mating cycle or the breeding cycle are the turkeys in. Are the hens on nest and the toms are lonely during the day? Or are you going to have to come up with a strategy to pull the toms away from the hens, or the hens just coming with them to the decoy? We're going to talk about strutting zones and finding sand to see the strutting areas. We found a lot of really good sign. We found little hen poop, which is in usually like a circle. We found Tom and Jake poop, which is like a J, or we found a gigantic tom poop where there was also the pine needles all rustled around. They like to do that in the middle of the day is kind of what I tend to see. There was grasshoppers everywhere. There was elk poop, deer poop, and the turkeys also like to flip over cow patties. Lots of cow patties. That is a good sign that there are turkeys around, because when it rains, the cow patties just become a food source for them, and so they'll flip them over. Any kind of poop. They're eating the bugs out of the poop, basically. Here's what our ideal day looks like. You show up, you set up camp in the light, keep all of your hunting gear in the truck because you're probably going to be using that to drive the back roads. Get out, walk around a little bit, maybe a mile or two, get back in the truck, keep driving until you find more gobbles. We were roosting the birds so that in the morning, when we'd wake up at 4:30 a.m., have our coffee, and you heard the birds from our tent, so that you could walk out there and do a morning sit.
Definitely more than one.
Then after that, we would go for any toms that we saw in the early morning strutting if we didn't have any luck on our morning sit. After that, we would run by the canyon birds. So if we couldn't find any other action happening, then we would look down the canyons for the birds and call them up to us, which is possible. If I can do it, you can do it. About 1 o'clock every day, we were pretty tired, so we went back to camp. This is a great time to wash your face, stretch, refuel, get that creatine, eat more, hydrate, clean up your area of the truck, dump out any trash, just reorganize your brain, but most importantly, rest so that you can eat dinner by 5. Get out to find some afternoon birds possibly, and then go back to roosting the birds for the next day. We brought my elk that I harvested back in January, and Caroline made tacos. I had beef jerky from my buck last year. We made elk burgers. We had sandwiches to take a break in the middle of the day and refuel. Creatine is great to refuel, ladies. If you don't have any on hand, highly recommend looking into that and getting some. Show you what our camp looks like. We're dry camping, so we've got water on the tailgate. We're sitting on Forest Service land. This is one of my outfitter tents that I have for Uncharted Outdoorswomen. It's made of canvas. I've had it for a couple years. It's great. Cinco de Mayo, so Caroline's cooking some elk tacos. Show you my side. Got the bed, camp box, Goal Zero, chair, and heater. Camp situation. Got this really nice stove. It's a Yeti, another propane tank. Just a little camp cooker. That's all you need. Maybe more turkeys, I guess. Okay, let's talk about our hunting strategies, and I'm going to show you some of them. The first one is the morning sit. This is most common, but isn't always available on public land. A morning sit only makes sense if you have roosted the birds and you know where they're at. At one point, we did bust a morning roost because we just simply didn't know that they were there. That's not cool if there's another hunter that has roosted those birds and is sitting there in the morning, and then here you come. So don't get out there first thing in the morning if you haven't roosted birds.
We bumped the roost, and then a turkey ran through the field at like 35 miles an hour, and other turkeys went the other way. So we sat for a while. Now we're gonna go chase them down. We're up early this morning glassing to see if any of the turkeys are coming off the roost. And when I glass, I'll start really close. This is Caroline, right there. Start really close, look up close, and then go farther back, like search and rescue, and then go back and forth on the mountain and the fields like that and try and find them. But they're very quiet this morning. We saw an elk by herself.
But the morning sit is where you put the decoy out and you're trying to call the birds off the roost to your decoy for a shot. This didn't work out for us, but it is so cool. The very first sit that we did, we heard birds we heard 3 different groups of birds, one on each side of us and one in the middle. They were with their hens, so they didn't come to us, but after they had their gobbles had faded, I walked off to the small field behind the roost where they were probably going to strut around, and now we know next time that's where we need to be. On foot. So after that, we turned around and Caroline saw a strutter. So he's out there displaying his fan and trying to find a girlfriend. I am all of 5'1", so I can easily move from juniper to juniper to juniper to get a shot. Caroline has a couple inches on me. So this is where she has to be really strategic. So we jumped into the creek bottom and walked around in the brush and the trees and the cover so he couldn't see us and pop up to try and take a shot. We put in some serious mileage checking out different fields, and we saw a bird on the very last day, or this morning, displaying his fan. He was completely silent, and I really wish I had had a cow decoy because I could have probably come straight at him through the field, but I kind of used the terrain to my advantage, so dipped down into some of the lower terrain. Really tried to avoid the pine cones and pine needles because they're really loud and crunchy. It's pretty dry out here, so walking on as much grass as possible was really key to get into him, but I don't know where he went. He was feeding by the time I lost him, and that's just Merriam's doing what Merriam's do best.
Smartest turkey species. Silent the whole time. I can't even find a big dude, too. Big for his species. Shoot. But he's definitely not in here. It's about 40 degrees, but we're sweating bullets. So it's really important to have good layers. Got sweat wicking under this. This is breathable. And we got Ann. And we decided to bring one gun. And we're moving from this field. There's no action. We're moving to another field, about 1.5 miles. I don't even know how much elevation, but it looks like there's sand over there. We're rolling up on like 9:30.
Hiking to small open fields. This can be a really great strategy if you're seeing nests and eggs around or hens on nests, because the hens are going to be laid up all day incubating their eggs. So that's going to leave a lot of toms lonely. Last year we got really lucky and called in a tom from probably over 1 mile away.
Update. We're trying too hard.
So you want to hike into the small open fields and try and grab in some of those lonely toms that are looking for some love, because you might get lucky, but don't miss like I did. And don't use BB steel, because that does not work. Here's the story about the canyon birds.
So how far is that? So they were down there, 516 yards, but he may have joined up with a tom that was that way.
Yeah.
Is what it sounded like, and then came up here behind us,
Yeah.
saw the decoy, and was like, oh
Last year, we were so shocked that they would, come 500 yards and then 300 yards of elevation gain, that we weren't set up correctly once they got to the top of the hill. But this year we set up, which we thought was better, but they still came in on the side and were able to see us. But we did call them all the way in, and they're still there today. They weren't responding to calls as much as they did the other day. I feel like they're on to us, but such a cool experience.
Here's the story about the canyon birds. Caroline knew that they were down there last year, so I called to them, and it took them about 40 minutes to get up to us. In that 40 minutes, we have time to walk back to the truck, get a couple more layers on, maybe get a snacks, a drink of water, reload your gun, and all while I'm still calling at the birds every couple of minutes to let them know the hen is walking around on the top of the ridge. We get Ann the decoy, we walk over towards the crevice that they came up last year, put the decoy in front of that, thinking they would come in front of us, but they came in behind us. When they were about 5 minutes away, let's call it, he was joined by a second one, and they really picked up the pace. They came into the decoy together, and I flinched. But you may see that we jump out of the blind, the ground blind, and try and shoot these birds on the wing. Caroline hunts upland birds over her dogs from September 1st all the way through April with the Uncharted classes. She is so good at shooting birds on the wing, and I am the only female waterfowl guide in the West. If you know of another one, I've been looking for her for 5 years, so drop her in the comments here. but I'm also used to shooting birds on the wing. If you're not used to quick movements out of a blind or quick movements to go shoot a bird on the wing, I wouldn't advocate for trying to do that.
Turn around.
Huh?
Did you see him?
Yeah, I did. And their eyesight, man.
I thought this is gonna be so perfect.
Yes!
God, like,
I thought you had one. I was like, don't wait for that second bird.
well, that's like I was waiting, and then the first one popped his head out, and it looked, and then it went that way, and I was like,
That was cool.
Just that little movement gave them the only warning that they needed, that it was a setup. So if you're going hunting with somebody, you're worried about messing it up, just know that you have to stay as still as possible, and also mistakes happen. Our entire week was full of mistakes, the coulda, woulda, shoulda. When you're hunting, you want to look left, which I can't really do because I got LASIK, or right, which I could do really well. And you want to move your eyes kind of like this. You don't want to be doing this thing because they can see all of that. They also didn't come with their fan displayed to the hen, so I'm not totally sure what that means, but I mean, if I just climbed 300 in elevation, I'm probably not going to be dancing around either. Rock Creek Calls has been supporting Uncharted Outdoorswomen since the beginning. He has sent us free calls for our turkey classes and our elk classes, and I used the dark night this weekend, which once again pulled the canyon birds right up the side of the hill. When my other calls wouldn't work, the dark night seems to have more of like a higher pitch noise, kind of like the kiki. They can also kiki, and that is really what I feel like breaks them in to come in closer than 100 yards. I really haven't had too many birds stop at 100. Usually they stop when they see me. And we were completely covered up. We were pretty much sitting like this. Or like this, had my own little beard. This is how we kind of looked, and you cannot move because that is all it took. Hunting public land is challenging. If this is your very first turkey, 1000% go hire a private guide and she will help you knock out your first bird. But if that you've kind of gotten over that and maybe you've run and gunned down a few birds or like to float down a river and punch your tag like I do, then chasing Mountain Merriams at elevation throughout the Rocky Mountains might be for you. It's kind of like if you're into fishing, it's kind of like catching a fish on a worm that gets old after a while. Now all of a sudden you gotta make it challenging by harvesting the duck, decoying the duck, to harvest the duck, to tie the fly, to catch the trout in a high alpine lake of every different cutthroat species. And it just gets more fun. It's a different way to connect with nature. Also, if you're disabled, private land guiding is a great place to go. Some of the stuff back here is gnarly, but it doesn't have to be. Did find a shed, so that was cool. Like, it's definitely an old shed, but that's pretty big. That is pretty big. We added it to the skull that we found last year. One of the things I really like about hunting birds on public land is you really get to know their habitat, and we went through ponderosas, juniper, canyons, sagebrush. It's really become some of my favorite habitat to, explore on public land.
what surprised me the most, how, like, just believing in ourselves, like, more, like, in our ability to call the birds in, and my friend Erin did a wonderful job of calling birds in.
We just had so much fun. Like, we learned so much. It's kind of like hunting private land for me, although it's great. You go out there, you get your animal, you leave. If you really like camping and you really like hunting, taking a couple days to do a vacation to learn more about where the animals live, that's what really does it for me. So how do you get started? you can go to unchartedoutdoorswomen.com and you can actually come with me on my classes to learn how to chase Mountain Merriam turkeys on national forest land who has given us a permit the last several years. You can see the whole calendar of events that our female and femme-forward guides have put together for you as a woman in the Rocky Mountains who wants to learn how to hike, fish, and forage, and not have to pay a guide every time you want to go out on a Wednesday afternoon for a couple of hours. And we do this because there are 3 pillars that women need as the fastest growing demographic in the outdoors. However, we are still the fastest to leave. So women really need safe opportunities, most likely guided by women, confidence in women who have public land experience, and community, their community. If you're looking for someone to go hunting with, check out our Facebook groups, Uncharted Outdoorswomen's Community. And you can find your community online at unchartedoutdoorswomen.com. I will also link them below. We have 3 or 4 different Facebook groups. The best one to go to is Uncharted Outdoorswomen's Community, or get on our newsletter to be notified of the monthly events that our community committee, or Emily, puts together every month in Denver and spends a ton of time doing it. We really try and get those events out to as many gals as we can to welcome you. So go to our website, unchartedoutdoorswomen.com, sign up for our newsletter, and I'm sending those out. I'm a real person. AI is not sending out my emails. That's me as a small business owner.